Shalom, shalom. All praises to Yahweh, Bashem. Yahweh Shai, Bashem, Pakadash, double honor to the elders and the apostles, great millstone, the new teacher, who taught us the truth. This is your brother Yashima from the GMS Atlanta camp. And today's video is going to be going into reincarnation. It seems like this subject consistently gets brought up. And, as I've been saying many times through the times that I have done videos or spoken at camp, this truth and the precepts that are the 100% truth can either be a stumbling block or they can be a stepping stone. All right. What the Bible has to say about the nations, about reincarnation, about the grape law, what the Bible has to say, not what the world has to say, but what the Bible has to say can either prevent you from coming into the truth or it can help you to come into the truth because it can either bring it together or set it apart. All right, now ultimately, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai is the deciding factor, right? Because even Yahweh Shai spoke about that. He said when he prayed unto the Father, those that my Father has given me cannot be taken from my hand, right? So let's do a quick Google search and see what Google said. It says, I just typed in, is reincarnation biblical? It says, no, reincarnation is not biblical. And Christian theology fundamentally rejects it based on verses like Hebrews 9:27, which states it's appointed for man to die once, and after that comes judgment. So this is the lie that we had been operating under prior to coming into this truth, right? Christianity mocks reincarnation, and they associate it with the beliefs of the Chinese, the so-called Chinese, which would be the Moabites. And so they downplay what the scriptures say. Because what is Christianity? See, Christianity has bits and pieces of the Bible, but it's not biblical in its foundation, if you understand what I mean. They'll tell you that they believe the Bible. Well, they're just like Jehovah's Witnesses or, like the Latter-day Saints, They tell you that they believe the Bible, but they pick from the world, man. They have a small foundation. So now, what are we to do? Well, this is Malachi 3 and verse 18, which talks about going into the scriptures. And this is what we have to do. We have to judge the things both of this world and in the scriptures in the eyes of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai and what the scriptures say, okay? This is Malachi 3 and 18. It says, then shall ye return and discern between the righteous and the wicked, between him that serveth the Most High and him that serveth not. And that's what's going on today. We are living in the prophecy spoken about in Ezekiel 37 and Revelation 11. We have returned unto whom we were. The Spirit has been breathed back unto us, starting with the elders and the apostles, whom the Most High is used as shepherds to feed the flock. And what does the book of Ezekiel say? The sheep of my flock are men. All right. So, but, that's not to say that there aren't a couple of females out there that are inclining their ear to 100% truth. But the point here is when the world tells you that reincarnation is not biblical based on Christianity, it's basically telling you that the world itself doesn't accept it. But again, we are not of this world, man. This is not our rest. Micah 2 and 10 goes into it. So we're not called to try to translate what the scripture says according to the world, right? Matter of fact, let's get one more precept. Let's get the fashion of this world. There you go. Why? 1 Corinthians 7:31. It says, and they that use this world as not abusing it, for the fashion of this world passes away. See, because in one decade, they will tell you, that the scriptures say this, and then in another decade, it changes, man. All right, this world is swaying. Okay, so we're not called to judge the scriptures upon what Christianity says. So now, let's go ahead and get some scriptures that go into reincarnation or regeneration. This is Revelations 10, verse 11. It says, and he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. Now, who is this that we are reading about? Well, this is John, and we know the story of John. You know, John was sentenced to death in the island of Patmos, right? And so he died alone. So, you know, what's the interpretation for that Christianity gives you? Oh, you know, they will tell you, oh, well, you know, John is a representation of the church. No, that's not it. Because we understand that when the spirit dies, it goes up onto the Father, and then we are judged for what we have done. All right, and that's what Hebrews goes into. Is it, you know, when Hebrews 9 says it is appointed for a man to die once, and then comes the judgment. Well, where is that judgment taking place at? Let's go from here, and let's go to Ecclesiastes 3. And this is an in-transit video, so Salakia for the misspelling. Google understands me, though. Google understands me. Uh, it says, yeah, verse 16, it says, and moreover, I saw under the place of Salakia, and moreover, I saw under the sun the place of judgment, that wickedness was there, and the place of righteousness, that iniquity was there. So when Hebrews talks about man dies once and then comes the judgment, well, this scripture here is telling you that the judgment happens under the sun. And where's that? Judgment happens in this world. We die, we go into the spirit world, we get judged for how we lived our life, and then we get sent back every third and fourth generation, right? To live out our judgment. That judgment is spoken about in Hebrews 9. Now, why do we say every third and fourth generation? Well, let's go ahead and get that. Forgiving until third and fourth generation. Let me see here. Exodus 34 and 7. Let's start at verse 6. It says, and the Most High Yahweh Shem Yahushai passed by before him and proclaimed, the Most High Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, the Most High Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, merciful and gracious, long suffering and abundant in goodness and in truth, keeping mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, and that will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and upon the children's children, and unto the third and fourth generation. So again, that falls right in line with the judgment. The scripture is saying, because you know we are our great grandparents, man. We come back every 3 or 4 generations. Okay, Galatians 6 verse 7 goes into that. You know, be not deceived. Whatsoever a man sows, that he shall reap. Everything we do in this world has a reaction for it. And these other heathens, you know, they are aware of this. That's why, you know, these people believe in things like karma. You know, you have the Chinese that believe in, you know, we come back as flies and horses. You have the Indians that, you know, say that we come back as cows, and that's why they don't eat them cows, right? But the point is that the whole world understands that there's a biblical, that there's a foundation in us coming back. Just like you have many, many myths that talk about the flood. You have, you know, different, different. You have different manuscripts from the ancient world that talk about a great flood. Okay, just like you have many different manuscripts that talk about, you know, giants. You know, but we understand that those giants are men of renown, men of the name. But the point is that everything points back to one common source, which is the flood, giants, and reincarnation, man. That's what this is going into. And we see a perfect example of this in the New Testament. Let's see. Who sinned? This man was born blind. John 9. I try to stick to one app, but, you know, we'll go ahead and get it here. John. We'll get John 9. Let's see. It says, and as Yahushua passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And verse 2, and his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? So These are our forefathers who understood the scripture that we just brought out. And so that's why they are asking him, because they understood that if you are born blind, if you are born with a missing limb, or born with the palsy, that is judgment based upon how you lived your life in the past. And that's why they framed it this way, because according to this world, people that are born blind are they just get bad luck. But no, what that's not what the scripture says. Doesn't Amos 3 say, shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the Most High has not done it? Nothing happens by chance, but all things happen, according to the plan of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. Okay? So again, verse 2, and his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And again, that's because they understood Ecclesiastes 3, verse 16. I saw under the sun the place of judgment where wickedness was. And what did, let's check out how Yahushua responds. Yahushua answered, neither has this man sinned in his previous life, right? Because what did he do? He sinned when he came out the womb and became blind? No, this is talking about his previous times, man. Let's see here, it says, nor his parents, but the works of the Most High should be, but that the works of the Most High should be made manifest in him. So Yahweh, he didn't rebuke them in their doctrine. We see many accounts where Yahweh is rebuking the Pharisees or the scribes, but he's not rebuking his disciples here. He's not saying, what are you talking about? He's saying, no, he's saying, this was done so that I could perform this miracle. But he didn't knock them for their doctrine. See, regeneration is throughout the scriptures, and we have to read these scriptures through the lens of what the scriptures say, not through the lens of this world. Okay, because in the same breath that this world tells you to love everyone, this world is actively trying to put you down through the mixing of fabrics, through the poisoning of the air, poisoning of the water. So we're not called to judge things according to the ways of this world. To the contrary, scripture says we are the salt of this world, man. We are the ones that have the flavor. We are the ones that can change what this world offers and can change it unto what it's supposed to be. All right? That's why we're called the salt, man. Because salt, we understand that it's a preservative, but also salt changes the flavor of a food unto the way that it should be. And doesn't the scripture talk about our daily bread? Well, Yahweh said, man shall not live on bread alone, but by the word of the Most High. This is our bread. But we are the salt that is giving the bread the right flavor, if you get what I'm saying. So now, let's get a couple more scriptures. I probably ended up missing my exit here. Hold on a second. Where are we going? I'll figure it out. Figure it out. Matthew 16 and 28. Okay, now here's another scripture that talks about reincarnation. It says, verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. So here we have Yahweh talking to his disciples, and he's telling them that they're not going to taste death, but we are, we know that all of the disciples tasted death, including John. The only difference was John didn't have a violent death, but the rest of the disciples all died. So what is this talking about? This is talking about the reincarnation of the disciples. Okay? Now, let's go back into the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes 1, verse 9. No, that's not it. I don't like this, the way this comes out, but, for the sake of time. The thing that has been, it is that which shall be. And that which is done is that which shall be done. And there is no new thing under the sun, man. So that thing is talking about man. Matter of fact, we'll go ahead and go into Ecclesiastes. I believe it's in verse 7. It breaks it down for you. It tells you what that thing is, because, somebody say, well, what's that thing? Let me see him. Sorrow of the heart, it is better for as crackling surely better. Be not hasty, wisdom. Man, if a man beget, that thing is man. Let me see here. Ecclesiastes, that thing is man. KJV. It's somewhere in here, 6 and 10. That which has been is named already, and it is known that it is man. Neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. So when we read in Ecclesiastes 1, verse 9, and it says that thing which has been, right here, Ecclesiastes 6 and 10, it tells you that thing which has been named, it is man. So the scriptures are talking about the man that has been is that which shall be, and there is nothing new under the sun. Okay, and we see another example of this in the book of Job. Job talks about this. I shall see him again. I shall see him again. Worms, KJV. We will be getting it. Job 19 and 26. And though after my skin worms destroy this body, yet in my flesh shall I see the Most High. So now we have a couple precepts that all point to us coming back again in the reincarnation and seeing the Most High. Those souls that were alive in the ancient times are going to be alive in the end times. Doesn't the scripture say that in the last days he shall raise them up? Well, when are the last days? Well, Genesis 49, when it talks about the last days, the last days go into the revealing of who the Israelites are, through our scattering. It tells you, where Gad, it tells you, what would happen to Gad. It tells you where Issachar would be at. That's how, and now we have that understanding. And so we are in those end times. The book has been opened. The Spirit has been breathed back unto us. So in the end time, we will come back. And I want to get one more account in John, verse 1 and 21. Okay? It says, and they asked him, well, let's get 120. Says, and he confessed and denied not, but confessed, I am not the Mashiach. Verse 21, and they asked him, what then, art thou Elias? And he says, I am not. Art thou the prophet? And he answered, no. So here, people are asking John the Baptist if he's Elijah or which prophet he was. And why would they be asking him? Because Christianity will tell you, oh, well, they were just asking him if he came in the spirit, if he came, it's just what's the word that they try to use? They say, oh, it's a philosophical or a poetic way of asking that. These men weren't, poetic. These were fishermen. Peter slashed a dude's ear off, man. This isn't poetic speak. This is prophetic speak, right? And why were they asking this? Because again, they understood the scriptures. This is Malachi 4, if it loads, and 5. What's up? Malachi 4 and 5. Behold, I will send you Elijah, the prophet, before the coming of the great day and dreadful day of the Most High, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. So this is why our forefathers were asking John if he was Elijah, because they understood what Malachi was going into. And through the Spirit, even Yahushai himself told his followers that. He said, if you can receive it, this is Elijah. Matter of fact, we'll get that. If you can receive it, it's Elijah, KJV. And, the water for the patience, this is an in-transit video. Matthew 11, 14. And if you receive it, this is Elijah, which was for to come. So Yahushua himself told it, broke it down. And, Christianity doesn't have a response to this. They don't, because first they tell you that it's a poetic speech, but Yahushua plainly tells you, hey, this was Elijah. All right, and Elijah came back again, and uh, uh, we know this to be true because he turned the hearts of the fathers back. He turns the heart of the sons back unto the fathers, man. And that's that happened in 1969 when the truth came back in through the way of Abba Bibbins, man. All right, now let's get here. The spirit of the prophet, spirit of prophets, subject, prayer. Let's get that. 1 Corinthians 14 and 32. And the spirits of the prophets are subject to the prophets, man. So look, reincarnation is real. You know, reincarnation, tells you here in 1 Corinthians 14 says that the prophets come back. All right. If you can hear this truth today, it's because in your past life you understood the truth, and vice versa. Those that can't get this truth is because in their past life they rejected the truth. All right, and even when the truth was rejected, even these naysayers, even they understood reincarnation. I'm gonna close out on that. All right, says, "Let His blood be upon us and our children." And the reason this makes perfect sense now is because we understand, we got that in Exodus 33, right? Where it talks about, requiring the transgression from the third, fourth, and generation, visiting the iniquities of the fathers unto the children and their children's children. This, with that precept in mind, take a look at what they said when they were chanting for Yahushua to be stoned. It says, "Then answered all the people and said, His blood be upon us and our children." So just as the spirits of the prophets are subject unto the prophets, the spirits of the two-thirds are subject unto the two-thirds. And that's why the elders and the apostles are able to reveal unto us who Trump is, Nero. Matter of fact, Salakia, one more precept. I know I said that I was going to close, but I'm going to get one more precept. They that pierced him. Here's a good one. They that pierced him. It says, "Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him. And they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him, even so, Amen." So who pierced him? Well, it was Roman soldiers who pierced him. Well, how can that be? Because again, the same Roman soldiers, the same group of people, the same spirits that pierced Yahushai are going to see Yahushai coming back in the clouds. And this has not happened yet. And by the way, those clouds are chariots, so-called UFOs. Regeneration is biblical, it's in the scriptures, and understanding that regeneration is the salt to our daily bread makes the food taste so much better. I hope this has been edifying, and until the next one, shalom.